Welcome, Namaste. It's Deb Shepherd. It is our third uh, day of Secrets of the Soul. I will have something completely different than I was going to talk about today, so I'm very excited. But I will let a few people join us, and then we'll get started so that everyone can be on board at the same time. With me is, if you weren't on the other days, is Dana Nieto. She is managing it behind the scenes.
Hello,
There she is. Yeah. Hello, everyone. There's a Keith Fletcher. We have a guy. We're going to talk to men tonight. So hopefully some men are going to be joining us. So if you haven't been on the other 2 days, I will cover just a little bit about the other 2 days and then delve into what we're going to have today with a few guest speakers tonight. But thank you again for joining us. We have someone from Aurora, Colorado. Keith, we don't know where you're from. If you want to throw that in there, we'd like to hear where you're from. It's always interesting. I think that, a lot of people want to be in person. We want to be able to do it, together. But what I have found is that we can have everyone together, no matter where you are located in the world. And we're saving the planet by not, driving around and things like that. So that's always an honest thing, too. That's a great thing. We have Emily. She's saying hello. And then we probably even answer questions. If you joined us the last couple of days, maybe you did the exercise where you opened up your heart, got those sensories going, the sensory neurites, the 40,000 of them that we have to get that kind of going. I shared this yesterday. The way that this platform is set up, I get to look at myself for the whole time I'm speaking, and I don't get to look at the responses or where people, what they're thinking, if they have a question, things like that. So we certainly want to have everyone know that Dana is managing behind the scenes. And if you do have a question as I'm speaking or something that you're curious about, please feel free to ask, because we want to be able to take care of everybody's needs while you're here for this short amount of time. Also, the first day that we talked about Secrets of the Soul was how our heart and our brain are really a superpower when we can get them to connect. And the heart can actually regulate so much of what we want to do. And we end up cutting off our heart because of our experiences through life. We shut that down. And so the head then goes into fear and, doesn't always nurture us. It goes into a lot of things that we're afraid of in our experiences. And these things start as children. Dana, did you have something to share there?
I was just going to say we still have people joining because I think we
Right.
started 3 minutes late, but shout outs from everyone before
Absolutely.
I know you're excited about this topic. And
no, I didn't know, because I can't see everyone that's joining. So I just don't want people to sit there thinking I'm doodling my thumbs,
I don't even know what you're going to share.
Yeah, Keith is from Maine. Thank you. There's, Miss Horan. And I know you don't live in Colorado anymore, so thank you for joining us. And it is a Friday. We should take it a little easier. People had long, probably weeks, and today might have been a long day, and you're finally sitting down. There's Miss Allison from San Francisco. She will be sharing a little bit or talking tonight. She's one of my favorite people, so I'm so glad in the Bay Area. There's Dave Derby. I've known for years and years and years, and I'm a good friend, and he's actually joining our men's group that I'll probably talk a little bit about tonight. And Wheat Ridge, Miss Sarah, she was on the last couple of days, and that is in Colorado. I feel like I'm doing like the Miss America pageant, right?
In
Colorado. Brandy from Georgia. So if anyone's ever seen, Australia. Wow. I want to go there. I want to go to Australia. One of my favorite actresses, Nicole Kidman from, I don't know what part of Australia, but she's from Australia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dana's just laughing at me because I'm just talking to everyone. I can actually see everyone's kind of, comments here. I love it. I just think it's very fascinating that people, and we have Arvada real close, but she's in Texas, but her home's in Arvada. So thank you. Again, let's go Texas, right? I'm sorry for those of you that don't know me. Dad jokes, it's my forte, even though they're not really funny at all. But part of it is people have to realize that on a daily basis, I'm talking with people who have had significant losses. They've had a lot of grief. They've had some really hard times. And so for me, the way I can process that heaviness, that we call it holding space. When we're holding space for people that are going through a tough time, we need those outlets, and we need to be able to find things that help us through each day. And so my bad humor is one of those ways that people have to put up with, Dana being one of them. Yeah. So,
Okay. Well, I think you can get rolling, Deb. I just wanted
okay,
to give people-
good. Absolutely. So I briefly went back into talking. This is the third day of Secrets of the Soul. And the first day was how our brain and heart, would they get disconnected over our experiences in life, especially from our childhood. We don't have a filter, and those experiences of what we're told can affect the way we respond in life. And sometimes we, lean into that fear or that limiting belief that doesn't allow us to expand our world and see other ways to manage our life. And our identity comes from those experiences and becomes so much of us that we're unable to heal and move forward. We feel stuck, as we say. And sometimes we feel like if we're stuck, that we're safe, we're afraid to do anything different, because what if it makes things worse? And so we sort of get into this loop. And then the second day, I talked about how we have on this uniform, and I call it archetypes, where we wear this suit or this armor that we've worn throughout life, and we forget who we are. Our identity is by these labels that we put on ourselves. And as we meet people or we go through life, we have these labels of who we are and what we've become. And that also keeps us detached from our intuition. It keeps us detached from really hearing our loved ones or connecting with our guides or moving forward, or really expanding our ability to be the best version of ourselves. And so that labeling and the uniforms and all these different layers that we have, we're unable to kind of go deep into with our heart and soul and be able to really hear why we're here, to understand our passions, to be able to heal our past, to look at our traumas, and to figure out where we want to be. And I think there's always a difference between purpose and passion. I talked about this the last couple of days. I believe our purpose is what we're here to learn, and our hearts know that information. It came with us when we were born, but our passions are things that we love to do. And so it's hard sometimes we get those mixed up. So when we tune into our heart or into our mind and we try to figure it out, we get confused, the difference between our purpose of lessons and learning and our passion in what makes us happy. So today I had a lot of stuff typed up that I wanted to talk about. And as I was sitting here for the last hour, I started thinking of, I wanted to do something different, because there's some people maybe on this, these last 3 days that maybe they've worked on their trauma. Maybe they're very intuitive. Maybe they're very open. They're not feeling like that is who they are right now, or they just haven't dug deep into that, or some people don't talk about their past traumas and things that's happened. And they made me think that they're just perfectly fine exactly the way they are. And that's fine too. Some people just go through life and they just think, I'm just fine. Everything's just good. But I want to know if you really believe that everything is okay. And part of that is, have you put a kink in your hose? And I know that sounds a little weird, like, what do you mean a kink in my hose? Or am I a kink in the hose? Well, anyone that's been outdoors and you're, watering the grass and you're hosing off the sidewalk and things like that, you'll get a kink in the hose, and you have to go over and fix it. You have to twist it. You're shaking it. You're doing all these things to get the water to flow again. But sometimes that represents our life. We're not really in the flow. Things are not really moving. We're sort of, there's water coming out of the hose, but it's not really the full extent. So there's a little limitation. And what I find is that people can't really look seriously at their life. They may think, yeah, things are really good. But honestly, if you dug a little deeper, are you really as happy as you say? And are you paying attention? One thing that we understand is, one of the things that Dana has said often in our classes is, do you listen to respond, or do you listen to understand? Well, for over 25 years, I have been doing medium readings, and I know how it works pretty well. And Dana will come onto a Zoom meeting and she'll start talking to people about how this works for me, and that anyone can come through, and it doesn't matter how long they've been gone, or if it was a pet from your childhood, or a relative you didn't really know, or someone you didn't even like, that they can come through. As she's talking to people about this, I can see them being distracted. They're not really, writing notes down. And we even prepare them beforehand. When they sign up, we send information to have them be prepared so that they can get the most out of their session. And usually there's several people there. And so we don't want, in those kind of sessions, we want to make sure everyone gets a reading and everyone, knows what we're talking about so that we're not spending time just spinning our wheels. And people will get up and walk away and they're not really listening. And then when it comes to the reading, there's a lot of resistance. They're putting a kink in the hose. And the reason they put the kink in the hose is because they are thinking, this is what I'm expecting. This is going to come through. This is what I need to hear. And it doesn't matter who else comes through. When this happens, it takes us a while to figure out who this person is. And then usually they always figure it out and they validate and they go, well, I didn't really know them, or they've been gone a long time. Everything that we prepare them for. The reason I'm bringing this up is that's just part of life. This is just part of what comes with my business. But are we doing that in our personal life? Are we doing this in our life that we are the kink in our life's hose? Or are we stopping ourselves from fully engaging in what's available? One of the ways to look at this, I thought about relationships. How many relationships are you bored? Maybe you're the one that's boring. I work with mostly women. I used to work with men and women, but now mainly I work with women. And what I hear so often is that women or relationships are feeling that men especially are feeling just okay. And they're going through and they're not expanding. But it's also with, are you sitting at the dinner table or are you going out to dinner and the topics are exactly the same problems, the same issues, the same topics, or are you expanding? If you're at work, are you bored? Are you not doing things that create passion? Is there relationships in your life that you just feel like, I don't have energy or time for them? Or do people not feel like they have time for you? So when I was going to go into this kind of third day, I was thinking I'm going to talk about what people mainly come to see me for. And that is mainly for grief, losses, trauma, things that they want to heal about. But you know what? Boredom and Groundhog Day can also be an opportunity to say, maybe I want to make a change. Maybe I want my relationships to be deeper. Maybe I want more in my relationships. Maybe I want to show up a little bit differently in my relationship. What can I do to participate, to be more fulfilling, to communicate better, to be able to have the opportunity to be the best version of myself? We all deserve that. I look at how many people are single and how many people are searching. If you look at sites where people are looking for a relationship, are we showing up the best version of ourselves? And if you are in a relationship, what are you doing to make it the best version of that partnership? So many times when we're together for a period of time, we just sort of do, again, that Groundhog Day. We do the same thing day after day. 70% of divorces are initiated by women. And I think a lot of it is that we are not spending the time to work on ourselves to see if we can expand. We're students. We came to this planet to become students, to work on things in our life, to expand, to be curious, to see another version of things. And we can do that by finding hobbies, by exercising, any of those type of things. But are you doing them? Are you stretching yourself to the fullest extent? And this comes with, even if you are in a place of grief, is your grief also getting a little bit boring for you and everybody else? And I'm not saying you have to let go or you have to change. What are you doing to make a change? How do we become accountable and responsible so that we can begin to shift and change? And what I love to do is have us look at ourselves. And it's hard. The older we get, we don't want to see those blind spots. And so being curious is a big thing. And when we think about the kink in the hose, sometimes it's because the flow of our energy becomes less. There's less of our energy that is coming in, and we can't fulfill a partnership. We can't fulfill what we want to do in our lives. Maybe that we're feeling redundant in a lot of areas of our life. I see some hearts going on. So I think people are feeling too, like, how do we do that? And I think too, especially if you're back in the dating scene, let's say, for an example, are you talking about your previous relationships? Are you talking about, what your trauma is, what your pain is? What are those things? What if you started healing those areas of your life so that when you show up in a partnership, you have the best version of you? Because when we talk about likes attract like, that we are attracting who we are, can we attract someone that is a partnership? One of the things I always say is you don't want to be a nurse, a purse, you don't want a project, you want a partner. And everyone is looking for that. Someone said yesterday that that uniform that we put on, that suit we put on, is always taking care of somebody else. We have a tendency to not put the mask on ourselves or take care of ourselves or have the self-love. We feel like if we take care of everybody else, that will bring value to ourselves. Well, we end up attracting relationships that are those projects. And those projects keep coming into our life because guess what? That's what we're telling the universe we're really good at, and that's what we desire. So if we want to change those experiences, it's how do you become the best version? How do you open up that heart and heal and not bring in your old stories? How do you heal those stories so that your definition of who you are is not your past? And as we age, I think there's a lot of things about how we feel about ourselves and how we look, the aches and pains and things like that that occur as we age. And to bring that into a relationship, whether you're currently in a partnership, there is that part of being a supportive person to each other. I mean, Dana certainly, I'm older than she is, and she puts up with all that. But at the same time, I have to be accountable how I show up as a partner. Am I being a kink in our relationship? Am I a kink in the flow of our energy in that partnership? And how do we get the fullest amount of our both hearts connecting? And I think there's a difference between men and women. I think communication can be such a challenge in partnerships. Men are problem solvers. You begin to tell them a problem and they want to tell you how to resolve it. And for women, we just want to talk it through, and men are like, well, let's fix it, right? So we end up having these challenges in relationships. So this is when we have the mantra of don't listen to respond, but listen to understand. How do we create these relationships? And one of the things that we do in our communities, we call holding space. How to listen to every single person without telling them what to do. We call it stay in your own lane. We are sometimes as healers all over the place trying to make sure that everyone gets taken care of when we're all on a path separately. And how do we be responsible for ourselves? It is so often that when we take care of somebody else, we are distracted from our own needs and wants and the needs for us to heal our own wounds and the things that are in our lives. And the program that I teach is called Solution. We call it excavating for the wounds. And sometimes we don't even know they're there, but they start showing up in different aspects. So whether it's a boss, a client, a child, a parent, a partner, all these partnerships, however they're aligned or not aligned, is part of understanding the kink. Is it where you're showing up and you're projecting a lot of this negativity of your pain that you have, and people keep showing up this way because we keep attracting what we need to work on? Or are we just ignoring it? And I think a lot of us like to ignore those blind spots. We don't want to see the things we work on. And it doesn't mean there's shame or guilt or that you're doing it wrong. We're here to learn. We're students of the universe. This is school. We're here to take steps to grow and expand and learn. If you're in your life and you're not trying to expand and learn, that's the kink. It becomes boring. It becomes Groundhog Day, where we're on those we're on the, not that, well, it could be the Ferris wheel or the carousel, where we're just going around and round and round. And we're telling the same story, the same song, and getting off and getting back on. You are responsible and you are accountable for how you live your life. And we can talk about our stories, we can talk about our past and who did what to us and how we are the way we are. Absolutely. But at what point do we decide we want it to look different? How long do we want to be in our old story? And when I think about the movie Groundhog, if you've seen it before, eventually, Bill Murray makes a lot of changes, right? And that's the whole point of the movie, is to make changes. That if we do the same thing over and over, we're going to expect, when we expect different results, that is insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over. So I thought about this today as I was sitting here wanting to share about this secrets of the soul. Some people feel like, oh, my life's pretty good. Things are fine. How is your relationship? Can you have interesting conversations? Can you be a good partner? What are you needing from a partner? If you're single, married, whatever that looks like. How do you how do you invest into a relationship? And that means investing in yourself to make yourself the best partner. Someone else doesn't make us happy. They can make us miserable, right? But how do we find happiness within our soul and to our heart? And when our heart is open, and this is partnerships with anybody in your life, how do we become the best version? How do we respond to them? As I said yesterday, we cannot change other people. People have to be willing and have a desire to make changes, but we cannot change anybody. And sometimes we think, well, that relationship, if they just change a little bit, we can both be happy. Normally, that doesn't happen. But if we begin to change who we are, I even did a little research here. Dana was asking me what I was doing. 30 to 90% of Americans feel like they have a mundane life. They're bored. People are bored. Are you bored? And I think part of it is we get tired of working on our stuff, but I think the other part of it is that we don't invest in what we want to do to be better versions of ourselves. How do we create that change? And there is a lot of hard work in doing some of these things, but bottom line, it can also be joyful. It can be something that I've seen with working with my students is they didn't realize how limited they were living, how limited their belief system. And that's what happens when we feel like in a relationship, this is the best that it gets, because we get into this habit of every day doing the same thing day in and day out. So I'm going to challenge people here that are listening today and going, do I feel like I have the best relationship with myself and somebody else? And I know it's sort of where people are saying, well, you got to love yourself first. Yeah, that's true. I think that's really hard to do. But I think it's learning how to communicate better with yourself. I think it's looking at your brain and how your brain is wired, because what happens is that over time, we have created these pathways in our brain that we think it's enough, or this is just the way it is, or it's not trauma, but it's just, I don't have to do anything different than what I'm doing now. And those are really limited beliefs. So how do you then change that and say, I can be much more, and I can make a difference out there? What if you're an example for your children or your grandchildren or for siblings or other people, that you can show that you are never too old to expand? One of my fans is Martha Stewart. I love some of the things that she's created in her life and what she's done. She's even gone to prison and just owned it, got back out and continued, it was a bleep in her life. She didn't make it her identity. She's 83 years old and she's been on a cover of a Sports Illustrated magazine in a swimsuit. You go for it. When we put our age that we've fulfilled what we need to fulfill in this lifetime, that's a kink in the hose. That's kind of boring. So can you do more for yourself? Can you take that brain and wire it to a place to say, I'm not done. These are some chapters and I have more chapters to fulfill. What can I do that will expand my experiences? And this is very simple. This wasn't like this thing of, wow, this is really powerful. But how many of us are bored? Are you boring? And I know that sounds really lame, but are we the kink in our life? Are we creating a less of a flow of energy in our life? And can we change that? We're going to bring on some people that have made some changes in their life. And I don't know who we're going to have first, or if Dana's going to come on. But as you are listening to these stories, type in some things so I can answer. Because for 3 days, I've been giving you how you're wired, how your heart gets shut down, how we get stuck. If you want things to change, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to change it?
So, Yeah, this is definitely not the topic I thought we were going to do today. But
I was just like, I think there's a whole audience of people out there that are just bored.
I'm not bored.
No, you're not. And I'm going to go back to that. You're not bored or boring by any means. But I think when we think we're busy, that we're not bored. Well, I've got a lot going on. That doesn't mean you're interested in life or interested in yourself or that you're interesting. Because if I sat down sometimes and thought about our checkoff list throughout the day or through the week, I mean, it's not anything to be excited about, right?
Right.
So what do we do to bring in a shift in our consciousness? And that's what happens is that we don't know how to shift our consciousness. We get into a rut. And that's what happens with our brain. Our brain gets into these ruts. So I'm hoping Dana and Emily and a few other people that are marketing are like going, where did she just go? But it really hit me. It hit me like, I have more things to talk about, but it really hit me. We've talked about how many things that people have gone through that are really hard. Yeah. And so people think that, okay, this doesn't affect me. This is not where I am in my life. I've done a lot of healing and work. I've done therapy. I've done the books. I've done all this stuff. But what are we in our relationships? How are we showing up?
Well, we definitely want to talk about the solution tonight, which is your coaching program. And that's funny because this happens often where you start channeling information in class and you think you're teaching one thing and all of a sudden your guides and their guides take you a whole different direction. And it ends up being some of the best classes when your guides take the reins. So
yeah, I even wore the pink today and I didn't know why. And I wore the pink and it's all about the heart. It's about love. Mm-hmm. We all as humans want deep love. There's not a human on this planet that doesn't say, I really don't want any love. I just want to be able to work really hard and I want to be boring and I don't want a lot of things. That's not true. We all want deep love. We want to be loved. People love dogs because it's unconditional love.
So when you talk about boring, would you say that people keep themselves busy to avoid doing, because you talked about being busy, like I'm busy. Is that?
Yeah, because and we do that not to do any deep work either. So keeping busy makes us feel valuable and worthy. I've got all the stuff that I'm doing and I'm like, but you don't have what you want.
Yeah. So Keith's asked, how do you let your light shine?
I like that, Keith. I don't know if you were on the last couple of days, Keith, but we did an exercise about opening up the heart. I think part of that is really truly being authentic. And that's hard to do. And I think it's hard for men to do because men are judged about being these warriors and being these caregivers on a different level than women and not to show emotion. And I think part of it we talked about yesterday is giving away or taking away the armor that we put on. And no matter what the archetype is, the prostitute, the healer, the teacher, the warrior, whatever it is, that we gather all these layers of things and no one can really see who we really are. We're pretending to be something that's expected from us in the community. And that's why I think boredom sets in because we don't even know who we really are. Mm-hmm. We're bored with who we're pretending to be and what people expect. How do we find out what our heart's desires are if we have all this layers of stuff of performance?
Yeah.
I will be this because this is what society expects. I will be accepted by society if I behave this way. Mm-hmm. And how do you let your light shine if that's not who you are?
Well, one of the big ways you can do that is take solution and learn about your soul contracts and understand that whole piece of it. But we have Don and Allie are waiting in the wings too. So we can bring, why don't we bring Dawn on to kind of chat about just real quickly about how she used all these tools that you are talking about to shift tons of things in her life.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I know this is not where you expected me to go, Miss Dana. Sorry.
That's okay. And I'm going to pop off I'm going to stay on.
Yay. Hello, Miss Dawn.
Hi, Dana and Deb.
Hi, Dawn. Thank you for doing this tonight. I know I kind of pulled you in last second, so I appreciate it. Both you and Allie, which are in Deb's Solution Program.
My pleasure.
we have a few questions for you that we wanted to talk about. But well, tell everybody a little bit about yourself maybe first.
Well, first of all, I've been listening to the last 5 minutes of class, and I just wanted to say amen. I mean, everything you said, I was just like, wow. I mean, and when you channel things, I'm like, oh my gosh. So, I have been with the Solution Group ever since it started. Best thing I ever did for myself. I came in because of grief, and now I'm becoming the non-boring person that I've always wanted to be. So,
I never considered you boring, Miss Dawn. That's why I love you.
yes, but you know what? If you have a type, and like I started working with horses a couple of weeks ago, and I never would have done that had I not been through this class. This class gave me the confidence to, brush the tail of a 3-ton huge horse and not be afraid of it. So I don't have the fears that I used to have.
Yeah. And you joined it because your husband had passed and you were devastated. He was the love of your life. But
Yeah.
through it all, you have really worked hard and bought a home and completely made changes.
Because of this group. I mean, it's like, honestly, it's like I get the support from you and Dana. I get support from my sisters. I was thinking about the people in our group. I never would have met anybody from Kansas or from somewhere else. And we're all from different parts of the country, but we have such a tight knit sisterhood and friendship. And you think about it, like when your kids are in school, a lot of your friends are moms, or if you belong to a club, they're part of whatever club. But this is the first time in my life that I can honestly say, through Solutions, I have friends and people in my life that are like-minded, that I choose to be around, and we have so much in common.
Right. Right.
What would you say is your favorite part of being in Solution? Like, we know, and maybe you can even share a breakthrough or two that you've experienced throughout this program, if you think there are any big breakthroughs or anything like that.
I think, oh God, there's so many. I mean, we could be here until, tomorrow afternoon. I think one of the biggest things is that I'm not my story. I'm not the widow. I'm not the sad widow. I'm the desirable 62-year-old who's ready for a new relationship. And I never would have felt that way or been where I am now had it not been for Solutions and the support of Deb and Dana and my sisters. I know that I have a lot more life to live, the confidence to go out there and be a brown cowgirl and to learn, to have such joy just being, 6 o'clock in the morning and mucking and going to the feed store and getting my cowboy boots. And I was always busy, but it wasn't fulfilling. And it was like, can I fit in so many hours of volunteer work? And to me, as I wouldn't have made that time, I wouldn't have been able to interact with the horse or the animals had I not gotten the confidence and know who I am and have the strength and the inner strength, because you can't lie to horses. They know whether you're weak. They know whether you're confident. And I feel like I just go up to those horses and they know that I have good intentions and they can feel it. And I haven't ever felt that before.
Wow. And I think you become more, I think you've always been intuitive, but now you have a way of understanding your intuition.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, it's like, it's always been there, but I never learned how to use it. And I think if I had my intuition when I was in college, I would have saved myself from a lot of bad dates. And even now, it's like, I feel like I almost feel like if I walk into, if you walk into a house or something, where there's a good place or not. Things like if the lights go out in the old days, I would have been like, oh, that damn electric, they need to rewire the house. But now I know it's more than that. And it's kind of cool. Or I'll say something like, oh, that's just Randy, communicating with me. And people look at me, some people might look at me like I'm crazy, but people who understand that, they'll be like, oh, okay, cool.
Well, thank you for coming on and chatting with us tonight.
Thank you for changing my life.
Thank you. So part of this, and Dana, are you going to bring on Allie? Or are you going to have something to share?
Actually, yeah, we can chat with Allie if you like, but I know you have more that you want to teach. So
Yeah, a little bit of everything. And part of this too is looking at your patterns in life. So one of the things that Dawn was even bringing up, and that Dan and I talk about, is she was talking about her story, and her husband were really enmeshed in a lot of different ways, and he got pretty sick, and she was his caregiver for a while before he passed, and it was her entire life. And that's what happens, the wiring in our brain and our heart, and we that feel like that's the only thing we can talk about, and we can't maneuver through our life, and it begins to have that, again, the carousel where we're going around and round. But as you see Dawn, she's a completely different person. So it is about, how do you take the kink out of the hose? How do you take and rewire that brain? How do you then begin to find these other pathways in your brain? And I think a lot of people will read a book, or they'll try to find different things, but I truly believe is that you first of all have to sit down and say, I need to have some assessment. I need to do some self-assessment. I need to write down what it is that I am doing over and over again that's not progressing me forward. To get really clear on those goals. I think so many times we think what we want to do. I want to be able to create this. I want to be able to do that. And even if you write down your goals, do you stay on track? I think so many of us can get distracted. And where's our discipline with this? And if depending on how your brain is, for some people that achievement is, they're driven for it. But I think there's a certain stage in our life, sometimes we're not as driven as we used to be. And if we have the pain in our heart doesn't know how to heal. And if we have on the label or the outfit of the old ways, we're not going to change. Bottom line, we're not going to change.
Right. Well, with that, Deb, can I talk a little bit about solution for
Sure.
a minute?
Sure,
Okay?
absolutely. Yeah, since I rechanged everything I was going to say, I got to look at my notes again.
And then I want to bring Miss Allie on in a moment. But so Solution, we created Solution a few years ago. Deb's coached people for years and years and years, 25 years of teaching. And we created Solution about, I think 5 years ago, to be exact. And actually, Dawn's been with Solution for 5 years. She pushed us. She was one of the initial students that pushed Deb to create this program in a way where you could continue with it, which it was really the students calling for it that made this happen. But Deb's covering a lot today, and she's got a little bit more to share. But really, the benefits of Solution, as you heard from Dawn, is really knowing how to connect with your soul on a deeper level, and understand that your soul is really nudging you for you to learn more in this life, and for you to really connect with yourself on that soul level, which then allows you to have all these things that Deb is talking about, these things that you desire and crave. So getting the spiritual support to move through your lessons and your contracts so that you can easily and more quickly change your circumstances and create the life that you really want, and have that comfortable feeling and that peace and that joy and that non-boredom that Deb's talking about, because things start to spin and you start to feel energy in a different way. Basically, Solution is really nice. There's no other program out there like it. There is no other program out there like it. We've even searched to see what's out there just so that we know. And there's nothing like Solution, because Deb really focuses on you. And so chances are you've invested a lot of time, money, energy, personal development. This is nothing like that. It's completely different. It gets you unstuck in a way where you rewire your brain. You physically rewire your brain as you go through this program, and you don't go back to those old patterns if you keep going along the track that you're going on with Solution. So there's a process and a methodology that Deb uses, and I jump in there. I'm in class. I definitely take part in a lot of it, but this is Deb teaching you these things and supporting you so that you let go of the struggles that you're in. So this isn't rehashing old teachings that you've read or seen. This is not that. It's a very unique combination of working through your shadow work, self-healing tools, Deb channeling insights, connecting with your guides. It's guided during class. You embrace your hidden self. Basically, you excavate those wounds that you've really been held back by, and you get past these emotional triggers and past things that so that you finally experience this spiritual growth that you really crave.
Mhm.
And you start to make real progress. So
I think a few people were sharing some things like the mirror, that they were sharing what they knew or what they know. I think part of this is we can know a lot of things, but it's going deeper. So like with soul's contracts, dealing with soul, knowing what your life purpose is here, which is the difference between your passion, right? That purpose is really going deep. And it's like, let's say your contract is judgment or abandonment. How do we abandon ourselves, right? How many times do we abandon who we are? And then how do you then change that pattern? And again, it's the rewiring of our brain. And I think so many times we don't realize it takes effort to rewire that.
yeah. So yeah, with that said, the solution is more than just something where you have a talking head. It's very hands-on. It's experiential. You're in it. You meet weekly. You get additional support from your tribe mates, we call them, or whether you're in the men's group or the women's group. There are two separate groups. There's lots of options, and this is a fantastic soul spirit community. And I want to, can I bring Allie on real quick?
Yeah, I'd love for Allie to come on.
Okay. So I hope she's ready.
Yeah. Sorry, Allie. I know you're a different time zone. Yeah.
That's okay.
You
Certainly.
wore the pink too today.
I know. I'm laughing because everything that my guides are talking to your guys, because I think you went in the direction you did because.
Why was that? Yeah, because I all of a sudden I'm like, I have to go this direction. So not what anyone was expecting. What were you getting? Same kind of thing?
Everything. Everything.
I love this. You can't make it up.
No, you can't. Down the pinky too.
So yeah, Allie, share a little bit about you and what drove you to join Solution when you did, because you've been in the program for only 6 months less than Dawn. So
I know, exactly.
Yes, right?
So what prompted me to join, my husband at the time wanted to change our relationship to being not legally married, still together, but not legally married. And with that, I realized I had lost my passion for anything spirit. And my purpose, my intent in joining was to reignite my passion for my spiritual self and to gain more intuition. What I got was a bunch of what Dana just said. A lot more. So I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area.
What do you feel like is the most valuable part of the program?
Oh, so much. And like Dawn said, I'd be here until tomorrow. What's the most, well, I can talk to my, if you want, my my breakthroughs, which is what's been valuable to me. So
Instead of us asking you questions, Allie,
I'll just talk. What's so valuable is the community. The community that we have made and created. It's safe. And I'm here in California, so there are people from other locations, but I feel a sense of community and I feel safe in this community. And so my biggest breakthroughs was everything that you said, Deb. My job is not my purpose. My career is not my purpose. I've spent so much of my life thinking that I need to be a nurse or a nurse practitioner or something, some certification. and that was my purpose. And that is not my purpose. My purpose is to learn the things that I'm not good at, which is, at the beginning was my limiting beliefs. I had plenty of them. I had plenty of limiting beliefs. And I realized how much they were holding me back. And it took a lot of self-examination, looking at the shadow side, all of that, to realize, oh my gosh, like I'm living I could live so much more fully. And in order for me to do that, I had to shift my perspective. And I learned that in solutions was how to shift my perspective, look at things from different angles. For instance, at work, there are people who annoy me, and I'm sure there's people who annoy, sometimes there's conflict with your colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
I really have learned how to shift my perspective in my relationships. I'm a manager. And I really learned how to shift my perspective and set up some boundaries. And it's so much easier. It's so much easier, these relationships at work. I learned how to not to abandon myself. And that was the hardest thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the hardest thing. The hardest thing you could do is sit and look at yourself and really examine yourself and go through the work to do it. It's really hard. Solutions is not easy. And there is no other program like it. But the benefits are amazing. And I realize that I'm worth the investment. So, if anybody's on the fence, you are worth it. And it took me a long time to realize that. I mean, we know, but I am worth it. I am worth all of this. And out of all that, I've really become my authentic self. I live, wait, I wrote it down because it came to me. I am, I'm a being of authenticity.
Yeah.
I am living my authentic life. And people have noticed.
Wow.
People have noticed that I'm more calm. They sense a change, but they can't really figure out what it is. And then, I mean, they're not like, oh, girl, but they sense a change, and I feel a change. And so, and a lot of that for me personally had to do with anxiety. I had crippling anxiety throughout my entire life. And an example would be, I'd be walking down the street and I'd be thinking somebody's looking at my butt. Why would I think that? They're not looking at maybe they are. And if they are, so what? But it was just all these limiting beliefs that caused crippling anxiety, and all of that has fallen away. But it took work.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be willing to do the work and stick with it. And you asked what my favorite part, not just the community, but it's the homework. And we get homework.
We call it spiritual quest now.
Yes.
We have spiritual quests. And doing that homework is investing in yourself. Taking the time to do that is investing in yourself to grow spiritually.
And the homework is simple. We don't want to scare anybody. It's simple, but it's deep, right? It makes you think.
I think the big thing too, because you and Dawn sharing, we've gotten so close to you guys. I mean, everyone that joins the program becomes family. And I think there's so many times that we feel like we're on the outside looking into our family, or we don't feel like we're part of something. And I find that, like you said, it's all walks of life that live in different parts of the country. And even we've had people outside the country. And all of a sudden you care about each other, and you don't feel like you said, everyone's authentic and vulnerable and sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, Allie, I thought you were a empowered, confident woman, but with the way I see you now, night and day.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's real. Now it's like this real. Like, I think you had that persona, the label that we talk about. You had this label of who we thought you were, but now it's just like you rock it. There's absolutely no question.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
And that's thanks to you and the group, and I really highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Allie. Thanks for
Love
Love you.
letting everyone know your experience.
Yes,
Love
absolutely.
you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Someone says I need to sign up. We have Valerie, we have Laura, we have other people that are talking about the program that are on it, because there isn't another program there like it. But
Yeah.
talking about souls contracts, just briefly here, this is something I channeled probably 23 years ago at least, and I have since continued to add to it because I've channeled more and understood more, and of course we're expanding. And when you start the program, it's a 2-day workshop that we go into. What is your life purpose? Who are your teachers? What are the archetypes? It begins to build the language. So like what Allie was saying, and Dawn, you have the confidence to deal with individuals. So someone was talking about the mirror, the shadow work. Absolutely. All of a sudden, when someone's in your life, what the lesson is that you're learning. And now you've taken the energy of your heart and your brain and the lessons, and you have this dialogue, this language that begins to say, this is how I problem solve. You are no longer the victim in your world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing is I like to see people become empowered versus they have this idea that they're a victim, that these things happen to them. And what we like to say, it happens to you. It happens for you, not to you. And I know that doesn't fit every single solitary story that's out there, but a lot of times when we're being affected by things around us or the people around us, it's because it's for us to make a shift or a change. And we are challenged with making changes. And even though we want our life to change, there's a lot of control. People want to control their life. They want to control the outcome, and they're not able to surrender and trust. And if you want to hear from your guides and you want to hear from your loved ones, it is about the opposite of control.
Mm-hmm.
It is surrender. So when I was talking earlier, when Dana is trying to talk to the group of people that are on a Zoom to do a reading, they want to control how I show up to do the reading, and it's not going to work. And so how do we shift? Do we listen to respond, or do we listen to understand? And most of us do not listen to understand. We want to listen because we want to tell people what we know, because we're taught that in society.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Is there any questions on this? I don't have my glasses on or anything anyone wants to share.
Actually, if you want to type in questions, please do.
Yeah, there is so I used to have go ahead, Dana. I'm sorry.
I was just going to share that to wrap up the information about Solution. I put in the chat 2 links. One is to the Solution program, which is for women, and there is a men's group as well. So we are, for the first time, launching a men's group for Solution, separate men's groups. So there is 2 separate groups, just so you know. In the chat, those links are in there. But really, like you're talking about, Deb, is asking people, do you really want things to continue the way they are? Because that holes in that block that you're always talking about is, can we have another vision? Take a moment and imagine yourself in this place with more peace, feeling more connected to the universe, more connected to yourself and to those around you, and more fulfilled. And like Allie said, and this, I kid you not, I wrote this down and she said it, feeling like your true authentic self.
This is what happens in these groups, is that you start seeing some synchronicity because you're all aligned. So if you meet people and you feel like you just can't have a conversation and you're like, wow, we're just all missing sort of the mark, you will find both Dawn and Allie were saying, because no one knew what I was going to talk about, because I thought there are people that are listening that think their life is great, but is it the best possible version of themselves, is which I keep saying. And do we get bored? Do we feel like we're putting a kink and that there's not a flow? And I think listening to the universe, it's difficult when you are trying to control than when there's that kink. You had something to say, I could tell.
Well, just reminding people what they do next is they go to the link in the comments. It is open. The doors are open now for the Solution. and they're only open for a few days. And because of it's so hands-on, and it's because Deb is teaching every single class, basically, the space is really, really limited. And so it's only open for a few days. Space is limited. Jump on, sign up. There's several people that have signed up already. And so it's even more limited because there was it opened up to people who were on the wait list already. So there's only a few spots left. So
one other thing, whether you know this language or not, this is the first time you heard about me and you heard about these classes. So this is sort of the first time you've heard these things, or you've someone that has really experienced a lot of spiritual work and you've done a lot of digging deep. I am happy to create an environment that takes care of both. I have people that have come in for years at all different areas of what they've experienced, and everyone is taken care of, and you don't feel like you're left out, and you don't feel like you're bored. I promise you that.
Well, that was all I needed to say. So So run with the rest of it. Let me know what you need.
Yeah. Dana takes care of everybody. She's the hands-on person and runs everything. I will tell you without a doubt, these 3 days of talking about the secrets to the soul, that's what this is about. This is this program. This is what you are here to do. You came to this planet to open up your heart and open up what you're here to accomplish. It's exactly correct. It is the lessons. It is not your career. So when people are looking for that career, they're looking for a change in their life. It's probably because there's something here that has not been healed. And if we have all these blocks, then how do we open those signals in? And the messages are around us. So many times we get these little tap on the shoulder. And I have a lot of people that say, I can feel my leveling around, but I don't know what they're trying to say. And a lot of times it's just that they're trying to say hello, but wouldn't it be great to be able to expand that? And so the homework that I gave you on the day one was, how to connect with your heart. And Dana had put it in the feed. To do that every day for several days and put in there what your desire is, how to expand, you will start seeing messages. The one thing I found is that when there's a collective vibe going on and you're in an environment for that, it will continue on for a few days. So have that awareness there. It's all about our awareness. We get stuck into our routines. We get back to where we're comfortable because we don't want to expand. So this is about the next couple of days, especially through the weekend, is have those little radar up. Start looking at what animals are showing up, the things that people may say, the songs that come on, some kind of thing that comes into your feed that says, I need to pay attention to this. Because if you're looking for healing, where are you going to find it? If you're looking to have something that is more valuable to you, then how are you going to do that? Make yourself accountable for you. And this may not be the right program for it too, but start putting things in place. Sometimes we wait till the following year, but you can start now on this journey to get going. My biggest piece is I see a lot of suffering every day. We get phone calls, we get emails where people are really struggling. So what I want to do for my community is help people heal their suffering, because there's no reason that we have to be in that pain. And so your heart knows, your soul knows, and your heart knows the secrets. And to delve into that, it doesn't have to be scary or frightening. It doesn't have to be any of those things. It's just something that where you can find that safe environment. So go back to the 3 days, listen to each of them, remind yourself what little nuggets that you can take from to help you with your life. And I think the biggest thing is that not everything happens for a reason. I do believe that sometimes we're in the right place at the right time to get the healing that we need. But I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate both John and Allie sharing their experiences. But this is what we say on a daily basis, is people making their own healing, changing their life, taking off all of that armor that we've carried, all those labels that we put on ourselves, and this responsibility of what people are expecting and feeling disappointed at the end of the day. There's no reason to feel that way anymore. You can make the changes. So I really appreciate your time. I hope you have a fabulous weekend. And I just want to thank you once again. So namaste to everyone that came today.